What's going on, gamers? Here we are back with some Diablo 2 Resurrected, and today I'll be giving you 5 tips that I think could really help you out for that kind of quality of life. They're not going to boost your damage, it's not going to make you an absolute god in the game, but it may well save you some minutes and it may well make your life a lot easier. So if you'd like to know a few tips that's probably more aimed towards the beginner rather than the veterans, then stay tuned, that's coming up next. Welcome back, you guys and girls. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox. Why not hit that subscribe and bell icon? I'll bring you all the latest and greatest in hints, tips, guides and builds, and just some fun gameplay and reviews of upcoming games. But for today I'm here to tell you 5 tips that I think really can help you out in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, like I said in the intro, a lot of people will probably know these, but there's a very good chance if you're brand new to the franchise, or even if you're a returning player that hasn't played for an awful long time, you may have forgotten 1 or 2 of these, so it's well worth knowing. So jumping in at number 1, and probably the most obvious, is making sure you check your character page. If you press start and you go over to your character, just here is everything your character can do. It's how much mana he's got, how much life he's got, stamina, defense, how much damage his skills are doing, and again, if you go on to just down there, view advanced stats, it's going to tell you everything else that is incorporated into his build. For example, if you've got extra stuff on your weapons or your armor, it's all going to show up here. But more than that, it helps you to understand your character, what he can do, and if he's failing in any way, should I say. So for example, nice and easy, if we go over to our defense, when you go over to them, it highlights exactly what they can do and then gives you a brief description, as well as if you pop over to the right, average chance enslave will hit you 81%, chance to block 8%. So I look at that and straight away I know that I am completely squishy. I do not have anywhere near enough defense to be up close and personal. My character is pretty much a caster, so it doesn't matter quite as much, but if I was going to be close range constantly and I was falling over a lot, I would know that that's my own fault because my defense is absolutely awful. Other things that can help you out is looking at things like this. If you're a melee class, your attack damage dealt by the selected skill, so 86 to 248 if I'm hitting them with my kind of really bad melee weapon, and just down here, even more important than that, your attack rating determines how well your attacks can hit enemies. So if you're swinging and missing all the time, it's coming up with those little X's, or you just don't seem to be damaging your enemies, you may want to have a look at this. You may want to swap out some gear or put some gear in just in order to raise your attack rating. As you can see here, if I was going close range, my average chance to hit is 30%, which is pretty awful, to be perfectly honest. I'm going to miss at least 1 out of every 3, maybe a little bit more than that, meaning that I definitely need to work on that if I was going in with that melee damage. Also, sometimes if this doesn't tell you exactly what you want to know, you can look on your skill tree or just whatever you've used last once I can speak. So for example, hopefully this will come up. So if I go back to my character, it's going to tell you that my Armageddon damage is absolutely god awful, so don't judge me on that too much, I'm working towards something, but 162 to 231. Whereas if I do that one just there, it's going to tell you my hurricane damage is a lot better at 1297 to 1412. All in all, well worth knowing because it kind of works out how your build's going, what you're lacking, and if you need to sort it out in any way. Again, probably even more important in most cases than that, it's going to tell you your resistances, which over here you will really need to know, especially if you're bopping onto the higher difficulties. At nightmare settings, you're going to be knocked down by 30%, and on hell, it's going to knock you down a whopping 100%, meaning you're going to have to put massive resistances into your build in order to make sure you're not getting knocked about too much when they're using that damage type on you. For example, right here, if they use poison on me, I have the highest I can get for resistance, I have 75%. It's capped at that, meaning that you don't really want to spend too much over that. You could probably get a heap more in it if you wanted to, but it's not going to do anything. They're all capped at 75%, so try and get as close to that for each difficulty as you can, and it's just going to make your life a little bit easier. Also, just up the top here, just so that you know, that's pretty much your experience bar, and it's telling you how much you need to get in order to proceed to the next one. As you can see, as you start to level up, you need an abundance of this. So make sure you're farming a lot of XP, and also another tip, make sure you're not falling over and dying a lot, because you will lose XP and you will make things a lot harder. Once you've completed this bar and you've gone up to the next one, if you die again, it will not go down, you will not lose your level, you might just lose whatever XP you've actually gained. Right, so for this one, this one's quite a fun one. It's nice to know, and once you do know it, you'll probably be doing it all the time. So if I've ran out of everything, I've got no potions in there, usually I'm going to spend an absolute age, and I'm going to pick them all up, and I'm going to pick them all up, and again I'm going to pick them all up, and I'm bored already, and it takes way too long. Instead of that, what you're going to do is just, he says, let's just pop these out and drop one on the floor accidentally. Haha. Right, so what you're going to do is when you're actually purchasing stuff, you're going to buy whatever you need, and they go straight in there, which is really nice. However, if you've got them in your inventory, so say for example I've got all of these and they're in my inventory, but I haven't just purchased them straight from the trader, instead of picking them up manually and just doing that, nice and easy, all I'm going to do is click on the first slot. So say for example this one right here, I'm going to click in my right analog. So for PC I would imagine it's probably whatever your toggle is, just up the top here, like when you're changing your shield and such. I'm going to click on that and it's going to auto replenish into here. Exactly the same for these. So say for example I've got these in my inventory, if I click on here, again it's going to auto replenish. If I wanted something else, so say for example I had mana there, it would replenish whatever is in that slot that I'm clicking on. It's just a nice easy way to get stuff from your inventory into your slots a little bit faster. Obviously a lot of times you will be doing it through the trader and such, but if you're not out of them and you have a load in your inventory and you need to replenish them really fast, just click down that right analog and it's going to replenish it all really nice and easy. Just click over to whatever section you want, but it will make things a lot easier than picking them up singly. Next up, and one tip that's really good for some classes, especially those that like to go in close range with shields and such, is your block chance. Your block chance can really help you out. So say for example with this shield just here, it's not the highest in the world, but my chance to block is 42% on it. If I'm going into battle, I'm going to want to be able to block as much as I can to negate a lot of damage. If however I'm walking, so I haven't toggled on that run button, I'm just walking around, my block chance is at whatever the max value is. As soon as I click in that, run and start to run around, so even if you've clicked it in, it doesn't matter as long as you're not doing that animation, but as soon as you are doing that animation, your block chance gets knocked down by 2/3, meaning you've only got 1/3% of whatever your block chance is. So sometimes if you're getting knocked about a bit and you just can't work out why, it's probably because you're trying to run around a little bit too much, when in all honesty it might work in your favour just to get your walk or run speed up a little bit and just walk into battle, meaning you're not going to take anywhere near as much damage, especially if, like I said, you're that melee class. Definitely one to note for things like paladins, barbarians, anyone who's going to be taking a lot of damage to the face and wants to negate quite a bit. Now one tip that's definitely worth noting that you don't really find out in this, I've not seen any tooltips for it or anything such as that, but the armour types. The armour types actually do mean something in this. So say for example you've got one that's a really light armour, which a Sulk or someone who's a caster will probably be using, you may well think to yourself, well why am I not using the really heavier armour? They've got a bit more defence, why am I not chucking that on? There's nothing that says anything about it as far as I can see, so why not just chuck on the thing that's going to give you the most defence and give you the most bang for your buck? And that's that different armour types actually give you different statistics, but they don't exactly show up. So for example, if you're using that light armour, you're going to get absolutely 0 stamina drain, meaning it's really nice, you're going to be running as much as you want, and you're going to lose no speed whilst you're wearing it. So your run speed will pretty much be intact. Whereas if you use some of the other armour types, so say for example heavy armour, it's going to give you a 10% stamina drain and speed penalty. Meaning that if you're wearing a lot of heavy stuff, it is going to take a toll on you, and it will mean that in certain playstyles and builds, say for example if you're a Sulk and you don't want to be hit in the face at all, you may well be getting caught out where you shouldn't do because you've tried to boost your defence a little bit higher or tried to wear clothes that you probably shouldn't be wearing. Now another tip that is undoubtedly for beginners, but is also one that is very handy to know, revolves around your stash, and namely your loot, or money should I say to be more precise. So say for example right here, if you have a little look, I've got an abundance of money stored in my shared stash. Now there's a reason it's in my shared one rather than my personal. That's because every time you've got your money on you, whatever you've got, if you manage to die, you're going to drop it on the ground, and it's going to cost you a pretty penny because you died in the first place. It's going to steal that straight from your stash if it's stored in your personal one. You can lose an abundance of money this way, but so say for example heavy armor is going to give you a 10% and stamina drain in your shared stash, you're not going to lose anything. You'll just lose what's on your person. So very often, deposit everything you can in your shared stash, and you're going to build up a lot of money, a lot easier than if you'd have kept a lot on yourself, or if you'd have kept a lot on your personal, because it will cost you money every time you resin and stuff. Definitely worth keeping in your shared as opposed to your personal, or in fact on your person, because you will lose a lot over and over, especially playing people, because they'll just pick it up. Now last and by no means least, and this is one that I think you'll definitely want to know, and that is this option just here. So if I pretty much just go to my inventory and I bop a few things on the floor just there. Now I've got my pickup bound to my A button because I couldn't manage to actually put it anywhere else with my playstyle or how I had my other skill sets. So I'm picking things up with A, it's all fine and dandy, but sometimes when you're fighting bosses, especially if you're in a group or if you just can't seem to pick things up because you're still trying to whack something in the face when you really don't need to, there's another way around it. So if we go straight to our skill tree and go all the way over to here to our general skills, one of the skills that most people probably won't use is one of the common skills, and that's this just here. Loot. Pick up items, weapons and armor. So if you have a little look, pressing A interacts loots in addition to performing bound skill. But nice and easy, what you gotta do, whereas your normal one is this one just here, your attack, this one I find really easy to bind to my left trigger and then right trigger. So what I'm going to do is, especially if you've got a boss kill when you're in a group and everyone seems to be nabbing stuff much faster than you, or if you just don't want to be clicking that A button all the time, I tend to do this, and I'm going to drop everything on the floor. So the loot's just dropped, I'm clicking in my left trigger, clicking in my right trigger, and it's going to pick things up. It's got a slight distance on it, although it's not massive, but if you have a look there, it does go a little bit away from you. Every single time I'm just going to click in my right trigger. Keep tapping it and it will pick things up. It doesn't auto loot everything altogether, it is still singly, so you will need to hold on to it and tap that right trigger a few times over, but it can really make the difference between kind of picking up loot, especially in multiplayer, or even on your travels, or just whacking stuff without actually meaning to, or using that A button all the time if you haven't changed over your bind button. As always guys and girls, just a few tips that I've found along the way. No doubt in my mind that the veteran players who have been playing this for years and years will know all of them, but some of the new players, especially even myself, I didn't know all of these till a few days ago, it may well help you out. As always, Full Things Gaming, Full Things Xbox. Take care, I'll see you on the next day.